see you. Dobrodošlicu.
Good to see you, Tim.
You know, we've been waiting for a long time for you guys to get here, so we're happy that you're here with your family. But maybe could you introduce yourself to our friends out in cyberspace?
Sure. My name is Philip Beekman, and I'm the new head of the office for media, education, and culture at our embassy here in Belgrade. I've been with the State Department for just under 20 years, and I've lived quite a bit in the region, in Sarajevo and in Ljubljana before this. So we're really excited to be here.
So you have it's 3 postings all in this region. So why do you keep coming back here?
Volim život na Balkan. I can't stay away.
3 years, yeah. So I'm pretty psyched to be handing the reins over to you. So yeah, it's been just a wonderful 3 years. It's been weird because of COVID, of course, but you know, like you said, it's just probably the best job in the embassy, besides maybe the ambassador. But otherwise, you're getting the best job there is. So
wonderful. How long have you been with the State Department?
I've been with the State Department since 2000. I was a high school teacher before that. So I've served in Moscow, Kiev, I've served in Afghanistan twice, Iraq, but I've also been like Berlin and London and Washington. So.
And did I hear that you're done? Is this your last tour?
Yeah, this is my last tour.
You saved the best for last.
Exactly. I was going to retire after my last tour in Berlin, and then this job came open, and I couldn't turn it down. This is like the cherry on the cake. Was it cherry on the cake? Yeah, cherry on the cake. Yeah.
Well, so Tim, tell me, give me some tips for my next 3 years in Belgrade. What are your biggest tips for me about life in our public affairs section?
Well, I think part of it, because of COVID, I think that I wasn't able to travel as much as I wanted to, so my recommendation really is to get out and see this country. Belgrade is great. We have a lot of great friends here, colleagues here, but being able to go around this amazing country and see all the sites and meet all the people, and students and NGOs and government officials, and also we have a lot of anchors throughout the country too. We have our 8 American corners scattered throughout. We have Fulbright students and scholars who are here throughout the year. We have English teaching assistants. And then we have a lot of grant programs that we support throughout the year as well. So there's always a lot of stuff going on in the education field, sometimes in the cultural field, sometimes it's promoting democracy or working with the alumni of our exchange program. So it's just a lot of stuff going on all the time. So you have a lot of people to visit, a lot of things to see and do.
Tim, I know our relations with Serbia, U.S.-Serbia relations are good right now. Sve bolje bolje, right? Getting better and better. We have a long positive history, but then also sometimes there were challenges. So give me some tips. How have you approached that, and how has the embassy approached?
No, that's a good question. I mean, you know, this year we're marking 140 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the Kingdom of Serbia and America back in 18. A lot of it's been really positive. We were allies during World War I and World War II. There were a lot of cultural exchanges going on, people-to-people exchanges during the Cold War. But then you can't be intellectually honest and ignore the sanctions of the 90s and Operation Allied Force, and then the disagreements with us recognizing the independence of Kosovo. I mean, these are historical facts, and you have to just grapple with that. But so there are positive parts in our relationship, and there are some parts that are tougher to deal with. And I would say also, like, just within our own history, American history, we have parts of our own history that we're not always proud of course. Jim Crow, and discriminating against Native Americans, African Americans, the internment of the Japanese during World War II. So there are a lot of ways that, a lot of parts of our own history. I think people don't understand how self-reflective Americans really are, the way that we grapple with our own history. And that's just an important part of what we do. One of my favorite projects that we've done recently was using American graphic novels to work with secondary school teachers and primary school teachers. How do you use American graphic novels about the African American experience, about the Asian American experience, about the Native American experience, and then how do you use that to teach young Serbian kids about issues related to America, but also about issues of tolerance and human rights. And then they apply that to their own context as well. It's kind of
a part of our kind of the fabric of our being in the United States is this ability to be reflective and to look backwards and look forwards and try to be ever better, right?
I agree.
To acknowledge and recognize the past and work towards a better future. So Tim, on a personal note, Belgrade is a big city.
Yes,
my last tour was in teeny tiny little Ljubljana, which was fantastic, but it was small.
Yeah.
I have heard that you know Belgrade extremely well. So give me a few tips about things to do or places to see around town.
I mean, there are tons. Obviously, I mean, you're going to make lots of friends here. They're going to give you a lot of recommendations. I think that there are, first of all, a lot of there's such great food. There's so many great restaurants here. There's so many great bars and clubs throughout the city as well. You can have a lot of fun. I mean, there are great parks as well. I actually don't own a car. So my entire time here, I either use my Bus card or I was on my bicycle. And then I would go on my train or bus.
That's a great way to get to know the city.
Yeah. And then like traveling throughout the country. I should have used, because of COVID, I didn't do as much, but using the train to go to Novi Sad or the bus to go to Novi Sad was always fun as well because it's so nearby.
What's your favorite place in Serbia outside of Belgrade?
I can't. Well, I don't have a favorite country. It's so interesting with so many different corners, but we spend a lot of time in Niš, in Novi Sad, of course. I think the hidden gem for me was the first time I went to Užice, which is over in the west. We have a cultural preservation project going on there right now, and it's just such the geography, the history from World War II. I have all these Užička. I mean, there are great cultural festivals going on there, and I just think it's just neat architecture as well. So that's the thing. Like, if you're an architecture nerd, this is a great country to be in. If you like traveling into nature, it's great as well. If you like food, if you're a gourmet eater or drinker, big drinker, it's great as well.
That sounds excellent. I've got 2 sons, a 7 and a 10-year-old, and one of the things we like most is to get out and explore on weekends, discover new places. So I'm really excited both to do that here in Belgrade, but then also all over Serbia.
Yeah. Do the kids speak any Serbian yet?
Malo. Vala, right? Vala. Yeah. That's the most important word. Especially for any kid.
Exactly. But one of the things that I think Americans and other foreigners are just struck by how well people from Serbia speak English. And I think, part of it is they're great school, English teachers and instructors in school and university, but also part of it is like there's just so many TV shows and movies, and they show all TV shows and movies in the original language and then with subtitles. So I think Serbians just are so used to hearing Spanish and Italian and Russian and Turkish, and then of course English, lots of English. So they speak so well, and that also makes them great candidates for exchange programs because their English is so fluent. So, since 2001, when we reestablished relations, we've had 2,600 Serbians go to America on our academic and professional exchange programs, and that's on top of, during the Cold War period, 2,700 from all of the former Yugoslavia who went to the US on exchange programs. So it's a lot of people with American experience in this country. The surveys and polls talk about the high level. You can see the high levels of anti-American sentiment in the country. But then when you meet people one-on-one, or even when you're talking to groups, you don't feel that at all. You might get a couple of tough questions here and there, but they're just such a warm, generous, welcoming people. It's just, you're going to love your time here, without a doubt.
Tim, you talked about speaking English, but I've heard a rumor that you don't actually speak much English around here.
Well,
Srpski. Čuo sam da vi ste pravi štreber.
Ja sam štreber prve klase, ali... Yeah, I love Serbian. I'm not the best at speaking it or understanding it, I think, but I do love the language. Volim srpski jezik, volim ćirilicu, volim gramatiku. So I just I keep on creating all these grammar charts because there aren't enough good reference material. When you're studying Serbian, when you love this language...
Katastrofa.
Oh, katastrofa. No, but like padeže, case endings. I just think that not enough people have focused on creating good reference materials. So this has been my little quest ever since I started studying Serbian in Washington. So I've been working on these crazy grammar charts. And someday they will see the light of day. They'll be shared with the greater public. But I just love this language. It's a passion.
At least with the folks at our embassy, right? Maybe we'll all be a little bit better for it.
Exactly. Well, I've kind of joked that, maybe not joke, but I could take these materials and share them with Serbian institutions, whoever deals with refugees or migrants and they're trying to teach people Serbian, or maybe share with Serbian American families back in the States somehow, so that if they want to teach their kids the actual grammar, I think maybe that's too much, but it's just an idea. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Besides that,
Audience questions?
Yeah, we'll take audience questions now. Cool. Let's see. All right. Here's a question for you. So this is questions from the audience. Can you talk about how you ended up working as a diplomat?
Oh.
I haven't heard this story. And yeah, so why are you diplomat today? What happened? What went wrong in your life?
What went wrong, right? Yeah, which bad turn did I make? Well, my story, it's maybe a little bit cliche, because I think it's pretty typical. One of the things that I love about our diplomatic service is that it is so representative of people from all over the United States, right? You're just as likely to meet a diplomat from Maine to Arkansas to, somebody from California. I grew up in Michigan. I didn't have a passport when I was a kid. Barely traveled outside of Michigan. My dad worked in a car factory because when you're from Michigan, that's what you do, right? But when I was studying at university, I went on a study abroad program, and I came to Budapest and to Prague. And I remember just thinking it totally changed my perspective on the world, and I really wanted to live and work overseas. And I saw that these were the kind of jobs you could do, and so I signed up and took our test. And you know the process. You take a kind of long foreign service test and hope that you get through. And so that was my story and how I.
You joined straight out of university?
I worked for just a little bit in Washington, just a year. Yeah. So, okay, Tim, here's one for you. This is good, and good for me coming in to the office. What's your experience and impression about working with Serbian colleagues at the embassy?
I love Serbians. I think a lot of people don't realize that the large majority of our staff in the embassies are actually from that country, whether or not you're talking about Serbia, the UK, Uganda, Australia, Cambodia, whatever.
This is unique. Many embassies don't employ any local.
Yeah, so I think that the American government, we've realized that you have to have these experts in the local language, in the local culture, who understand the politics, the economics, the social system. And yeah, you can get some college kid from America or someone or maybe a scholar who's been studying Serbia all their life, but that's no substitute for having like a native, someone from Serbia, a native speaker who has all these more nuanced insights. And so they wind up becoming, I say that we Americans in the embassy, we come and go. We're here for 3 years, maybe 4 years, but our local staff, they become the resident experts. They're the institutional knowledge, and it would be dumb for us American diplomats to not talk to them to get their insights when we're making decisions about what exchange programs to support or what activities to fund or what educational institutions to work with on X subject.
What's your favorite cultural quirk that you've seen working in Serbia in the last 3 years?
Well, cultural quirk. Well, there's one that Serbians share with Russians and Ukrainians because they lived in both those countries, and that is the fear of promaya.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Or in Russian, sklozniak, the draft.
The deadly draft, right?
But unique to Serbia, though. Let me see. I wouldn't call rakia a quirk. I'm going to think about this one. Yeah, I feel like the Serbians don't have as many quirks as as Americans or other nations. You have to think about that. What do you think? I mean, you've been in the region for a while. Is there anything from the region that you can think of?
Certainly. The draft is something that always sort of startles Americans. Slippers, which I love. I think that's actually a great habit that my family has taken on. Always slippers in the house. So those are good.
I think is Serbia one of those countries where you can't go out with wet hair because you will die. Oh, and I think it's also for women cannot put their handbags on the ground because otherwise you'll lose all your money. Right? Yeah, so like going into bars or restaurants and they have the little hooks underneath the bars and the tables just so that women can put their bags, or I guess if you're a dude and you have a backpack, you can hang your bag on there. That's kind of cool. I love that.
Well, Tim, thanks for the...
sure. I have one more question.
One question? Cheers.
All right. What is your vision on how to handle or discuss difficult chapters in history, whether or not that might be the George Floyd incident or LGBT rights or even, 1999 Operation Allen Force?
Oh, it's a tough question, right? But I think you alluded to a little bit earlier that one of the strong values we have in the United States is constantly looking backwards and thinking about our history and acknowledging the things that haven't been so great and working to make those things better.
Yeah.
So I think dialogue and conversation, oftentimes in America, we're very focused on action. Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe we focus on action to the detriment of conversation, but really these sort of tough areas are a time when simply conversation can be very valuable. So, I've got one more audience question for you, Tim. I've read a lot of crazy stories, or heard about crazy stories in the tabloids about the United States, or maybe conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with this at the embassy? What's your advice?
Yeah, there are a lot of. I mean, this is something that Americans deal with too, and Britain and France and the West. But you know, the nonstop stories with disinformation, misinformation, conspiracy theories. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming. I think one of the big things that we're trying to do, and other international organizations are doing, but also like the Serbian government is trying to do, the Ministry of Culture and Information, try and figure out how do you increase the media literacy of students, young students, university students, the general population, so that they're more resilient, so they can have defenses against disinformation. They can recognize what it is, and then take a second to figure out, oh, maybe I need to research that topic, that article, before I press send and forward it on to half of creation on Facebook or by email or whatever. So I think we have a lot of good partners all working on the same process. It is a big issue.
And Tim, I gotta say, I love your T-shirt, the Tesla T-shirt. Of course, honoring what a great way to honor probably the most famous Serbian American of all time.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Nikola Tesla. And I know the museum dedicated to him will be one of my first stops.
Definitely
in town here. Well, I really appreciate all of your tips, and I appreciate your warm welcome and all the hard work you've done over the past 3 years. So
well,
thank you.
I
Cheers
look forward to
you,
seeing
Tim.
you as a tourist in the coming years.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy retirement.
Živeli.